Tonight on the Black Channel. They used to say, y'all ain't never gonna get reparations. Now they're only asking, in what form should reparations be given? The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting super fortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media, and this is the Black Channel. And I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college and university of higher education and learning in the cosmos, the only institution of higher learning that you need. Of course, you are welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, just a few short years ago, they were giving us the y'all niggas crazy. You think you're gonna get reparations? And personally, I think we should make a list of everyone who questioned it and doubted it, just so we can all make sure that they do not receive it, since their position is, if you're saying we not gonna get it, then your position is we shouldn't get it. So that's the way that should be dealt with. However, you're hearing it more and more now, and used to be, folks were telling you y'all ain't gonna get it. Now on all your major platforms, everywhere you're going now, they're talking about it. So without further ado, let me go ahead and jump to the first one right here. Now, this was a week ago, but it dovetails off of something else. So I would be remiss if I didn't play this in conjunction with what I want to get to. So we're bringing you the 720 degrees of analysis you'll receive nowhere else. None other than Meet the Press. Chuck Todd, NBC News, their main political show, Meet the Press. Why, this is not being whispered in dark corners of the internet anymore now, is it? Why? And it's not a whole bunch of academics coming out talking about, well, this wouldn't be right. You don't have the rising tide lifting all boats conversation anymore either, is what I'm trying to tell you. And you don't have people up here talking about, well, we need a minority coalition. They're actually saying black. They're saying it with their chest. They're saying descendants of the slaves. They're saying cut the check. They are saying cash reparations. So for those of you who might have been weak-willed, or those of you who might have been raised by the degenerates of the civil rights generation, you're just a weak individual. So in your mind, everything's supposed to be about surrendering and giving up. You have an attention span of a flea. So you just walk out there for 2 seconds, and if things haven't changed, let me send it back home. For those of you still embroiled in that world, then yeah, that's going to be tough for you. But for the rest of us, for those of us who have built nations and built empires, we understand you're not going to stop a 1,000-year Reich like white supremacy in a day. You're going to have to be stronger, faster, more relentless, and more unyielding. And that's what we've been. So guess what? Just one election cycle later, just one. In 2020, Bernie Sanders, defiant. Ain't gonna be no reparations. No, it's just not gonna be you president. All the folk who are backing him, y'all sit down now, Jimbo Jangles Clyburn. Y'all need to quit slowing down now. Now those folks don't have any play in the room. They got no leverage. Here we're coming up on the next election, and even Chuck Todd and NBC News is bending the knee. They're not talking about reparations like you're a bunch of lunatics. You know what they would usually do? They would usually go off, let's just be honest, they would usually go off and go find somebody with a fez who just got released from the mental asylum. They would usually find somebody with a fez, and they on their disability check. That's usually what they would do. because they're going to try to frame the narrative for us. They would usually find some old nigga in a dashiki, go wheel him out there, one of the in-cobra dudes. They would just wheel them out there. Or they would grab somebody and dress them up like the Black Panthers, and he'd be sitting there, yeah, the problem is these crackers need to understand we mean business. Better run our money or else we gonna run you over. It was jive, turkey. Back the hell up off me. We gonna get all of y'all, you dig it? It would be that. But not this time. You know why? Because there are enough people now. I've told you all before. I told you this well over a decade ago. You were asking me then, Jason, how do you change the world? How do you know that you're changing things? And I told you what the numbers are. Once you get that 10% tipping point, then the things you aspire to are no longer aspirational. They are now inevitable. And now we're getting to a point of it becoming inevitable. What was once the unbelievable is becoming inevitable. No less than NBC on their prime political program is sitting up here talking about it in sensible terms, in realistic terms of, well, how much will this cost? It used to be, you ain't never gonna get it. Now it's, how much would that be? And some of the cowardly and shameless who failed throughout their lives and everything else, they're sitting here looking at us right now, seeing how the job gets done. What I want to do here, I want to start with Meet the Press. We're not going to go very long on this one. There's just some key things I want you to see. But I want you to see how it went down here on Meet the Press last week before we come to the next video I want to show you here. And automatically, you can already tell there is foolery going on. Now, it's very interesting when they talk about LGBT and whatnot. They don't bring out some counterpoint to it. It's just, this is LGBT. Y'all need to get on. They also don't bring out polls and surveys telling you how unpopular it is. We're going to get to that there in just a moment. Oh, don't worry. We're going to get to that in just a moment.
Welcome back. We want to dive in deeper. As we saw earlier, reparations is a hugely divisive issue. By
the way, I would be remiss if you take a look at the first screen here. What did I tell you? You look on one side of the screen, they got some black fella here looking like he's fresh off the plantations over here over Chuck Todd's left shoulder. On the right-hand side of the screen, Lord, woe is me. Oh, Jesus. Swing low, sweet chariot. Coming forth, bring me on. Okay. Then you take a look over Chuck Todd's right shoulder on the left-hand side of the screen. What do you see? What did I tell you? What did I tell you? They're wearing a black beret, dressed up like the Black Panthers, got the patch on. What did I tell you? Did I call it or did I call it? So before you can even get started, this is the imagery that they decide to use before you can even get started. Nothing about sophisticated intelligence. Dr. King was neither dressed like he was getting ready to be a gorilla in the jungle, nor was he dressed like he was getting ready to pick cotton. Neither was Malcolm X. Neither was Stokely Carmichael. Neither was H. Rap Brown. Neither were any of our luminaries. Medgar Evers. They were never dressed like this. Nothing you see on that screen. When they got white folks, they got them dressed sophisticated like they're ready to do so. Where black folk is always something real off the beat. It's something real radical. It's way over here or way over there. It's something you would never really see in real life or you wouldn't want to get next to it. So what they're showing you is exactly what the deal is. So before they even get started, foolery on parade.
Welcome back. We want to dive in deeper. As we saw earlier, reparations is a hugely divisive issue. A Pew Research poll taken in late 2021 found that by a more than 2-to-1 margin, Americans oppose reparations for African Americans. And look at the racial split. Whites overwhelmingly oppose reparations, 80%.
I wonder why. I am flabbergasted. I'm astounded. I wonder. Whites overwhelmingly oppose reparations. I wonder why. I can't figure it out. Could any of you possibly explain or maybe research why it is you think that would be? Because I can't, for the love of me, I just can't figure out why that would be. I just don't understand. Why, this is incredible. Before Chuck Todd said anything, I just assumed everybody was with it. Oh, well, I guess not. I guess not. Although, you know, while we're taking polls on things to find out what's popular or whatnot, you know, whenever they bring in their LGBT representatives, and now it's just become full-blown degeneracy and deviancy now, you know, they never sit up here and the New York Times jumps out there and whatnot. They had a story here about, they were talking about pride here early today. They're talking about it all damn day, as a matter of fact. That's good to know because, yeah, this is the New York Times. This is the New York Times about pride. Now, look what they said here. An unbroken parade of marchers, some dancing and jubilant, some with determined purpose, filled Fifth Avenue in the streets of Greenwich Village on Sunday for the New York City Pride March, even as local and national threats hung over the day's events. The New York Times has become a full-blown, unapologetic pedophilia paper. The New York Times is showing this picture without saying a word about the fact, by the way, there's children and every damn thing else out here. Not a word about this. Not a word about what's going on at the pedophilia pride parades. And yet Chuck Todd wants to tell us about a poll. Chuck Todd wants to tell us about a poll. Oh, they're taking a poll. Well, there's a poll out there. You know what? I'd like to find out about the poll about this because when you go down the responses here, they also talk, a lot of folks here are talking about Seattle. There's a pride parade in Seattle. Got to be careful. And in other cities, they're showing you right here. I mean, this dude right here. I mean, you talking about looking with children right there. Look at this fella here in his tighty whities in front of kids. Who in the hell are the parents out here? Who are the parents allowing this? I mean, this fella right here looks like he drives the white Econoline van with the windows covered up with cardboard. He looks like that fella. Do take a look at the degenerates who have their children sitting out here. Not just him, the ones who have their children out here. Can we have an opinion poll about this, Chuck Todd? Chuck Todd, can we have an opinion poll? Can you get the Pew people out to decide about LGBT after this? Can we have a poll here, Chuck? Because I don't see you having a poll. And by the way, you always know bed wenches when they show up. You gotta watch out for certain places. Some of these folks out here, you gotta understand, when your mama has been touched on and your auntie has been touched on, some of y'all gotta be careful with some of these touched on relatives you got. You got some of these relatives, they've been touched on. We just gonna tell the truth. You got some of your relatives out here, they got touched on. And now they're grown and they've had children of their own. And see, they're out here grooming the children to get touched on because they grew up getting touched on. Chuck Todd, can we have an opinion poll about the views on LGBT, Chuck? And by the way, I can't even show you everything because there's another one from Seattle. I'm talking about this video right here. I can't even really show you that one. Not on YouTube. I can't even really show you that one. This one here is bad enough. We got Chester. You got Chester out here. What the hell kind of grown-ass man can be looking at children in his damn underwear, shaking his rump in front of children in their underwear? What kind of grown man wants to do that? You thought Jeffrey Epstein was the exception? There's a lot of Jeffrey Epsteins all through society, by the way. A whole bunch of Epsteins out here in society. And Chuck Todd, of course, you're going to have Negroes right there and whatnot. So he's getting ready for his damn Ed Buck moment. Bed bucks end up with Ed Buck. Ed Buck's bed bucks. Yeah, you always got some Negro out there co-signing anything that Zaddy do. Doesn't matter how old and decrepit. I mean, do y'all remember at the LGBT parades back when them fellas used to be ripped? Remember that? Back in the day, they used to be ripped. They used to be built like pro wrestlers and bodybuilders. Y'all remember that? Man, the pedos that just said, yeah, we ain't got to do that no more. Yeah, we good. Damn a sit-up. Damn a sit-up. And let me just dad bod. This is granddad bod. So, yeah. Ed Bucks, Bed Bucks. Ed Bucks, Bed Bucks are on deck. Ed Bucks, Bed Bucks. Chuck Todd, can we have a opinion poll about that, sir? Just asking for a friend. Since you're so concerned about opinion polls, can we have an opinion poll now?
But the numbers are almost exactly reversed among African Americans who strongly support the idea. So joining me now is Cornell William Brooks. He's a professor of the practice of public leadership and social justice at the Harvard Kennedy School. He's also a former president and CEO of the NAACP. And Coleman Hughes is a columnist and host of the Society and Culture podcast, Conversations with Coleman. Both of you.
Ain't that a son of a gun? So you're going to have a discussion about reparations with a fellow who don't even qualify. So, of course, y'all know as soon as you see Coleman, you know it's foolery in full effect. You didn't even... So, of all the people... So, Chuck Todd can go grab Coleman Hughes for nothing more than Coleman Hughes hosts a so-called podcast that nobody listens to. And that qualifies Coleman Hughes to come out here and speak on us. Someone whose family does not go back to slavery. Someone who does not qualify for reparations, and yet they keep dragging him out. But they would turn around and tell you that individuals like me are not qualified to be on TV or talk on these things, so that they wouldn't give us a call. But Coleman Hughes, they got him on speed dial. Even though he doesn't even qualify. He doesn't even qualify, and they got him on speed dial. I wonder why.
You have agreed to essentially lightly debate this issue with me as playing my role of moderator here. So, Cornell Brooks, let me start with you. You've been studying this for...
Just as moderator, is just going to be moderator, Chuck? All right.
Quite some time, and you've been working with some religious leaders to come up, I think it's fair to say, a modern blueprint of what you think, what would reparations look like in the 21st century? Make the case.
That's right. So I've had the pleasure and honor of working.
Okay, I got an issue with that right there. What would reparations look like in the 21st century? Make the case. Now, for LGBT over here, they don't say make the case. For them, it's just a given. Boy, this is creepy as hell. This is creepy as hell. Why come none of these parents ran out there and stomped him out? This is creepy as hell. But anyway, they never say the LGBT make the case. They never say that. It's never, hey, LGBT, come make the case. But for black folk, you need to make the case for reparations. Really? Okay.
With both the National Council of Churches and the Union of Reform Judaism and a group of Harvard Kennedy School students who are working with these large religious associations all across the country, representing over 40 million people, to create a moral discourse on reparations. Why? Because we know that in many corners of our republic, it's being politically weaponized.
All right. Next issue here is this idea that we need a coalition. We're getting together with all these different groups and whatnot. As black folk, we don't need a coalition. We don't need a coalition because you have folks sitting up here smiling in your face telling you they support reparations, and then when it's time to vote, they send Ted Cruz and everybody else up there. So my first response here is all this stacking, all this, ally stacking, that doesn't mean anything to me. Ally stacking doesn't mean anything to me. If it's going to get done, we going to have to get it done on our own shoulders. Let me be very, very clear. If this gets done, it's going to be done on our shoulders. There ain't going to be no coalition. It's not going to happen.
And they're endeavoring to make, I'd say, three key points here. The first of which is, with respect to reparations, you often hear that the harm was too long ago, it's too expensive, and too impossible, too difficult to do. What we find is the harm was not long ago, right? So in other words, yes, slavery ended in 1863 and 1865, but the convict leasing system, representing 1 million people enslaved, lasted up until the opening days of World War II, right? And all of these systems of oppression continue into the present point.
Okay, now, Here's where we get into trouble again. Here's where we get into trouble again. You can't base this on systemic racism. If you're gonna invoke convict leasing, you've got to invoke convict leasing in its proper context. You can't just sit here and say, oh, well, this is the extension of systemic racism. You cannot do that. Convict leasing occurred because of what? Because it was a loophole trick bag maneuver in order to re-enslave their slaves, so that now you could enslave their children. This wasn't something that immigrants had to deal with. This was specifically targeting their now released former slaves. If you do not put that in its proper context, you have no business invoking convict leasing, because then you're spreading it out to apply to everyone. No, convict leasing is only relevant because that was the extension of chattel slavery. And we, those of us who can draw our lineage back to the killing fields of America, we are the ones who were targeted. Not everybody. They didn't target everyone. They were only targeting the former slaves so that they could get them or get their children. So if you're going to mention convict leasing, you are, in the words of Dr. John Henry Clark, out of order. And you are erroneous if you do not put it in the context of slavery. If you don't put it in the context of being an extension of chattel slavery, because now you're opening the door. Now you're opening the door for you know who to come through and start talking about, well, it applied to me too, and I don't think we need that. It doesn't apply to you. That's why you ain't got nothing to say. So let's put that out there first. And this is your academic they got up here. The academics who are behind the curve because they're Johnny-come-latelys. They're going to give the line that they think their university wants to hear, not the line that empowers and makes black people whole. He's not going to do that. That's not the perspective he's coming in from. You see, you get together a bunch of pointy-headed intellectuals, and they get together on the cocktail circuit and the champagne circuit out there with Skip Gates, and they don't speak for the soil. So they start bringing up all these other issues. They don't understand the legal framework that we've been pushing, because the legal framework is to make sure it doesn't get diluted down into another affirmative action program. So when you start allowing it to be open to interpretation, that's where you have an issue.
One. Point two, with respect to reparations being too difficult. I want to know something here, Chuck, that's critically important. My colleague, Linda Bilmes, who's a public economist at the Harvard Kennedy School, we've done a study, and we looked at all of these programs across the federal government, and we make the case that we're already doing reparations. We simply don't call it that. So in other words, there's
Okay. So what you're saying here is that the American federal government already spends tons more than what you would than if you cut the check. Yeah, I mean, what they're giving in Ukraine alone. So don't tell us you ain't got the money. But by the way, what they did when COVID hit. They cut the check to everybody across the country when COVID hit, and we didn't have to make the case. It's touched down everywhere. By the way, that's the biggest argument you can make right there is, by the way, the federal government pulled out $3 trillion. They pulled out trillions of dollars when COVID hit. And by the way, the tab is actually over $3 trillion. It's actually over that. Well over $3 trillion. So if you don't, that's the only thing you got to say is the federal government pulled out $3 trillion out of nowhere and didn't have to have a debate. So the idea that reparations for us would be too expensive, COVID and its futile efforts there that only enriched Pfizer and the big corporations, and of course Dr. Fauci, can't forget enriching him. Can't forget that. Can't leave that out.
The norm in government, which essentially says, if an American has been harmed through no fault of their own, the government will often step in to try to make them whole. We do this not only with respect to Japanese Americans who were interned after World War II, but we also do it with respect to veterans, with respect to people who suffered in a natural disaster. We do it with respect to children who've been harmed by vaccines. We do it with respect to pensions that are insured. So we do this over and over again, which says that we can do it.
Oh, we just did it for Silicon Valley Bank, remember? Silicon Valley Bank, which went under because of bad business decisions by some of the biggest, richest corporations in Silicon Valley. The account holders were the biggest, richest corporations in Silicon Valley. The bank made a bunch of bad decisions. FDIC is supposed to only insure you up to $250,000, not $250 million. And yet Joe Biden and Janet Yellen step in. Oh, we can't allow Silicon Valley to lose its ass. Gotta bail them out. So all of a sudden that happens. So understand, see, if I'm up there and whatnot, I'm breaking those down and say, by the way, COVID pulled out $3 trillion from nowhere. Silicon Valley Bank. Oh, we're gonna make sure you understand that.
And lastly, we do it at the level of millions, billions, even trillions of dollars. So we can't afford to do it.
All right, Coleman Hughes, let me bring you in here. You testified before Congress in 2019 against the idea of reparations. You said paying reparations to descendants of slavery would, quote, only divide the country further. And you thought...
Now think about that for a few moments. Well, Coleman Hughes, you testified in front of Congress in 2019. Really? So ain't that enough? You didn't bring on anybody with some damn sense. He didn't bring on anyone with some sense. He brings on this acorn head.
I would insult black Americans by putting a price on reparations. You said paying reparations to descendants of slavery would, quote, only divide the country further. And you thought it would insult black Americans by putting a price on the suffering as well, and would make black Americans like yourself victims without their consent. I hope I captured that correctly, but you take it further. Make your case against.
So let me just make a distinction off the bat. I support reparations for redlining, right? Because there are many victims of redlining.
Oh, here we go. First of all, isn't this about face for him? Well, after 4 years of y'all, by the way, speaking of LGBT in your underwear. Hey, Coleman, I'm not going to play that video, but by the way, you want to talk about LGBT in their underwear? No. We're going to talk about Coleman Hughes. Let's be very clear. When you got a grown man running through the damn streets in the subway in his underwear, in his tighty whities, we need to call it what it is. Coleman, you need to come on out and be what you are, sir. And let folks know that your issues are twofold. Number one, your immigrant stock. Number two, your real issue is an LGBT issue. That's what you're concerned about. You're concerned about something else. So y'all, we need to put that in this proper context. We all saw him diddy-bopping around in his drawers. You know what the hell that is. You know what that is. Y'all know what that was. He was sitting up here saying, hey, look here. Hey, Ed Buck, is there some room at your house, Ed Buck? I'm here to be one of Ed Buck's bed bucks. Is there some room over there? So, yeah, this looks like the white version. This looks like the white version of Coleman Hughes. This looks like the white version. So, y'all remember that?
Lining that are still with us. They're still alive.
That correctly, but you take it further. Make your case against.
So let me just make a distinction.
Now, isn't this amazing? So if somebody came on NBC and said, we're going to make the case against pedophile pride, Chuck Todd would not say, here, make the case against it. He would say, we're not going to have them on because that's hate speech. We're not going to have them on. That's hateful. We're not going to have them on. That's disinformation. Now, that's what old Sucky Chucky Todd would do. But where we're concerned, all of a sudden, our rights and what we're due, all of a sudden, it's up for a debate. We're here to debate that. But for LGBT, it wouldn't be no debate. They would just say, you're a hate monger. He would be sitting up here questioning Coleman and saying, you know, all of you homophobes. Now, that's the way he would be saying it. It wouldn't be make your case. It would just be you homophobes. So I just want you to keep that in mind.
Off the bat, I support reparations for redlining, right? Because there are many victims of redlining that are still with us. They're still alive. And Cornell, all the examples of successful reparations for other groups that you highlighted were examples of reparations given to directly the victims of these human rights abuses in their lifetime.
Not true. That is not the standard. The standard isn't whether or not they're still alive. The Jewish people from Nazi Germany, the standard is not if they're still alive. It's only if they're still alive. When we showed up, all of a sudden it's, ooh, did that happen to you? But for other folks, it doesn't matter. For them, it's, oh, we can pay you for that. But for us, it's, they only say, oh, are you the person that, or were you the person it originally happened to? Only when we show up to say, hey, by the way, we owed. That's the only time that happens.
Or their immediate family members. That's why I support reparations for redlining paid directly to the victims, as they're doing in Evanston outside of Chicago. I make a distinction between that and reparations.
By the way, he's distorting that also because Coleman has to. So they bring him on to give blatant disinformation. Chuck Todd fact checks none of this, corrects none of this, says nothing to any of it, just lets him keep rolling.
For slavery, which ended in 1860, to the victims, as they're doing in Evanston outside of Chicago. I make a distinction between that and reparations for slavery, which ended in 1865. I know of no examples.
Now that's a lie right there. For Chuck Todd to let him say that is a lie, because Chuck Todd knows that in reality, and I've posted stories about this before, slavery was existing in America. You had slavery in America clean into the 20th century. You had people operating in chattel slavery in America clean into the 20th century. So Juneteenth even is a bit of a misnomer. For those of you who didn't know, you can Google that and look it up for yourselves. Juneteenth, as you know it for Galveston, Texas, is a bit of a misnomer because in reality, chattel slavery actually extends well into the 20th century. You can Google that one for yourselves. So instead of Chuck Todd challenging this, and I doubt that the professor in there even knows anything about the academic knows anything about that. So this is what I mean about if you don't have people who are fully versed in our history and understand all the nuances of it, because this is history that they do not teach you in school at all. They just teach you that Emancipation Proclamation was the end of slavery, and that's not true. Technically speaking, the end of slavery was 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, starting with the 13th. Now, the 13th Amendment technically outlawed chattel slavery in America, except for prisoners, you understand. But you can't sit here and say the Emancipation Proclamation. You can't say that. It's not until you get to 13th Amendment, and then you needed 13th Amendment to show you just how much we're targeted by the system and how ingrained it is. The 13th Amendment wasn't enough. They had to come back with a 14th and 15th Amendment to try to patch up some of the loopholes that 13th Amendment left. That tells you how far off in the woods. You had to have 3 amendments for us just to get us to the system of systemic racism we in today. You had to have 3 amendments of the Constitution just to stop legal chattel slavery and to get us to the system of institutionalized racism we are now. Think about that for a moment. Took 3 amendments to get us to institutionalized racism where we're at today. That was the product of 3 constitutional amendments. In other words, you're going to need another 5 or 6. And that's the whole goal, is to make sure that there's such an insurmountable obstacle, because we are the only people that every time you make an amendment to the Constitution, somebody's trying to find a loophole, somebody's trying to find some way to deny us the protections of that amendment. And not just someone, you have institutions, entire states, city governments, federal governments going to work to say, yeah, that amendment doesn't cover you. Yeah, we know that amendment said, but there's a loophole here that invalidates that amendment. All right, back in change you go. We're the only people who suffer that. The pride pedophiles don't have to deal with that. Never have. We're the only ones who deal with that. So that's a lie right there for him to say that. Chuck Todd catches it. Not at all, says nothing. So this is why the conversations get so polluted all the time and contaminated all the time. If Marcel Dixon was there, shout out brother Marcel. If Marcel Dixon was there, he would have started talking and said, no, you lying. That's wrong. He wouldn't have allowed him to sit up here and say that like that. And now he gets to pollute the mental environment and pollute the information environment like that. But Chuck Todd and NBC, their whole point here is to mix problems and to mix distortion in with reality. So you don't actually get a clear picture of anything. It just sounds like some disorganized mess.
As they're doing in Evanston outside of Chicago. I make a distinction between that and reparations for slavery, which ended in 1865. I know of no examples where groups are getting reparations for historical crimes that are over 150 years old. And unfortunately, the opportunity was tragically missed to pay it to the slaves themselves or their immediate families. But claims like this time out, right? And this is timed out.
Says who? Chuck Todd brought him on his claims like this time out. Says who? Because Coleman, Fruit of the Loom Hughes, says it's timed out. You receding hairline bastard, you don't even have a claim. And yet you made a job of it to try to get in the way of ours. Who the hell are you to decide that it's timed out? Doesn't he wish he had some power and authority? Doesn't he wish he had that? See, this is that house nigga syndrome. Even though he wasn't a house nigga, he's like, can I do an audition? They wish they had the power to get in our way. They wish they had that type of white supremacist power. See, he identifies with white supremacists so much, he wishes he had the power to say, I'm white and I say so. Your claim is timed out. Says who? Says me. I'm white and I say so. Rubber stamp. He wishes he had that kind of power. He wishes he did. He needs to be at home putting some bleach in them drawers is what he needs to be doing, not worrying about what we got going on.
Let me say one more thing.
No,
Martin
don't
Luther
say
King
nothing else.
Had a plan for addressing the legacy of slavery, which he laid out in his book, Why We Can't Wait. And he called it the Bill of Rights for the Disadvantaged. The Bill of Rights for the Disadvantaged was not a race-based policy. It was a class-based anti-poverty program that would benefit the black poor and the white poor and the poor of all races. That's what I support in terms of addressing the legacy of slavery. That's what I feel is the wisest path forward for this.
And that's the very reason why we cannot have all tides disproportionately impacted, impoverished. We can't have any of that because the poorest white person in America has the ability to victimize the richest black person in America simply on the basis of the color of their skin. So this is an incorrect metric to be using. It is a false metric to be using. Because when you're discussing white privilege is beyond money. White privilege defies monetary value. There's not a single poor black person in America that can make the richest white man in America, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, the poorest black person in America could sit here with them raping them on video and nothing would happen. That's white privilege. So you can't say that we are peers or we're on par with each other. I'm showing you the proof. No, we're not. And the reason for that is because of the degrees of separation from wealth that have taken control, that have built the system and control the system. Black people we built the country, but we did not build these systems of institutionalized racism, nor do we control them. So they get to control who gets preferential treatment. And if you have a rich black person walk in and a poor white person, the courtroom, the media system, the academic system recognizes their whiteness, not your money.
This country.
Let me follow up a little bit, Coleman, because it is interesting that there are some forms of specific areas where you believe a reparation of sorts should be put there. How do you distinguish Jim Crow? And what is the right amount of time? And I say that Germany is still paying reparations to now descendants of Holocaust victims. So what is the timeline where you feel like where you would draw the line?
Well, I guess better late than never, Chuck. Because you only gave 9 and 10 minutes to this segment. You let him sit up here and vomit out that bilge. Because if Donald Trump was sitting up there, well, when they found votes in Georgia, Chuck would have interrupted him and said, President Trump, if you don't stop with that line, that's what he would have done to Trump. That's what he would have done to Minister Farrakhan. That's what he would have done to me. He wouldn't have let us sit up there and keep talking to the end. He would have stopped us right there. Wait, before you even get down the road with this. So you sit up here and let him say that, and then, we're going to give you a chance to explain. Let me explain to you what you got to defend yourself against, and then let's give you a chance to explain your way out of that. But by the way, in case any of you lead pipe babies out there, well, Jason, how do you know they're still paying reparations to the seniors? How you know that right there? Okay, now that Chuck Todd has said it, now that the white man has said it, now I guess you won't argue with it. When I said it, you'll dispute it. The white man said it, okay, now it must be true. Okay. Yeah, if I had been up there, it wouldn't have gotten this damn far along.
How do you distinguish Jim Crow? And what is the right amount of time? And I say that Germany is still paying reparations to now descendants of Holocaust victims. So what is the timeline where you feel like where you would draw the line?
So I think reasonable people can disagree on this, and I don't claim to have the last word on the subject, but I think we can all agree reparations should be paid ideally in the lifetime of the victim. If the victim dies, it should be paid to their spouse or to their children. Once you get to grandchildren and beyond, my personal view is that that's beyond my line.
Okay, now you notice he doesn't address Germany. Now, I want you to pay attention to that. Notice, he doesn't address the question he was asked. He was asked about Jewish people in Germany. And you notice all of a sudden, he veers back to, well, this is my personal opinion in general. Ideally, he doesn't address why what Germany is doing is quote unquote wrong, because he just said it timed out. And yet you're saying, actually, no, you're sitting up here whistling past the graveyard on your own. Germany is still paying reparations. Oh, well, ideally, then what's your who the hell where'd you get this notion about timing out? Because we just proved you were wrong. We just proved that you're an idiot and a nutcase. We just proved it. Well, I think ideally, we asked you about Germany. So just understand, if Chuck Todd had done that a couple of minutes ago, he could have made him look like the stuttering, blithering idiot that he is right now, which is what you're supposed to do. He waits till you get 5 minutes in, so it seems like he's half here. But you wouldn't have done that otherwise.
To have the last word on the subject, but I think we can all agree reparations should be paid ideally in the lifetime of the victim. If the victim dies, it should be paid to their spouse or to their children. Once you get to grandchildren and beyond, my personal view is that that's beyond my line. But like I said, reasonable people can disagree on this, but there's no doubt that, in my view, crimes from the 1850s and 60s are beyond the statute of limitations.
Do you see this where services...
Okay, statute of limitations is a legal term. Statute of limitations is a legal term, Coleman. The first letter of the word legal is L, as in LGBT. Statute of limitations is a legal term. What statute of limitations is he referring to? Do you all understand that? There is no statute of limitations in this area. Statute of limitations, what are you referring to? Well, my name is Coleman Hughes, and I like this term, statute of limitations, so I like that. Which statute? By the way, Chuck Todd didn't stop there. Why didn't Chuck Todd stop that? Because by Coleman Hughes saying these terms, y'all notice he keeps sitting up here saying these legal terms to try to fool anybody out there, that 80% of white folk who want to believe that nothing's wrong. He keeps using legal terms, so it sounds like, see, there's a black person, he's using a legal term, so the statute of limitations has expired. What statute of limitations? I don't know. And if Chuck had stopped him, if Chuck had stopped him like he waited to do later there, you shut him down about saying that they don't have to pay the descendants. And Germany's already paying. Germany, which is the model for reparations, is paying the descendants of the Jews. So you just got shut down there. Well, in my opinion, at that point right there, people are zoning him out. He's going, well, the statute of limitations. Coleman, follow-up question right quick. What statute of limitations are you referring to? Cite the statute of limitations you keep invoking. Well, I mean, just as a limit on things. Oh, so there is no law you're referring to. You just keep saying that. Now, you do that right there, and people will be ashamed to back him because they're like, oh, yeah, you're the bumbling idiot who set up here making things up. So even your anti-reparationists would be ashamed to back him or support him because he went out there and vomited all over himself. And that shouldn't be allowed to happen. He shouldn't be allowed to sit up there and just keep talking, and then you got to sit up here and follow up with him, and after he set up here and put out the disinformation, hope that you can follow up later and people can follow it long enough so that you can untangle the knot that he just made.
Once you get to grandchildren and beyond, my personal view is that that's beyond my line.
Okay, let's be very, very clear about this. It depends upon the severity and the heinousness of the crime. It depends, in this case, it depends on the heinousness and the severity of the crime. American chattel slavery is the single greatest crime in the history of Homo sapiens. American chattel slavery was an absolute refutation of humanity itself. American chattel slavery was the institutionalization of human barbarism at its lowest level. Chattel slavery challenged the very idea that we were no longer the beasts of the field. It was heinous beyond description. And when you have something that heinous, then the remedy needs to fit the crime. So when you have something that outstrips anything else in history, and then you carried the practice on for over a century till it continues to this very, very day, no, the remedy needs to be as heavy as the disease. And a disease that spans centuries, Coleman the Coon. As a matter of fact, Coleman, you are the very reason that we need reparations. Your very existence is the reason we got to get them to cut the check. Because you see, if we were properly empowered, you wouldn't even be here. You would not be here to spread and disseminate your anti-black racism. If we were properly empowered, you wouldn't even be on that screen to speak against us. Because we would have had proper leverage and proper control in the society and proper influence to prevent the government from bringing in individuals like you whose only purpose is to undermine the descendants of the slaves and the rights that they've been denied. So your existence, you are actually the biggest argument that we have why we need reparations. But people, when you have a disease of the magnitude of American chattel slavery, when you have a destruction of that magnitude that spans centuries, and that the effects of it spans centuries, you need a remedy that spans centuries. You want to talk about legal argument and legal framework? This is a disease that has spanned centuries, affected people across centuries, continues to do so this day. You need a remedy that hits just as hard. You need a remedy that can hit just that hard, a remedy that spans centuries, a remedy that goes across decades, a remedy that spans generations. That's the framework that we are imposing, a remedy that fits the disease, a solution that fits the crime.
Children and beyond, my personal view is that that's beyond my line. But like I said, reasonable people can disagree on this, but there's no doubt that, in my view, crimes from the 1850s and 60s are beyond the statute of limitations.
Do you see this where services can sort of be what is reparations? So maybe it is free college, maybe it's discounted college, maybe it is tax breaks, however you want to describe it. Is that an acceptable form in your opinion?
It is an acceptable form. And when we look at what we call reparatory compensation programs in government, they use a variety of strategies to help make people whole. But
okay, let me go ahead and back up right here, because here's where we get into trouble when folks start talking, okay, instead of cash reparations, can we see if we can get us some alternative right here?
Be what is reparations, so maybe it is free college, maybe it's discounted college, maybe it is
okay, let's deal with this right quick. Well, can we do something other than cash payments? Maybe it's free education. First of all, let's be very, very clear. Every black person in America has been availed a free education, have we not? Yeah, you know that free education down there in Florida where they're ripping out the history from the textbooks. Same thing in Texas, same thing in Tennessee, same thing in Kentucky. Same thing in most of the states now. You know that free education where the black kids aren't getting anything? You know that one? We already get free education. That was Brown versus the Board of Education. You see how they undermined that one? You see how they undermine that one? So it is an insult to tell us about education being payment. We already get a free education. How is that done to level the playing field and to restore us? And then he talks about, when we talk about free education, well, about college. Now, this is why you can't have one of these so-called academics up there. You can't have one of these so-called black academics up there because he isn't going to speak against college. Oh, no, we don't get any benefit from sending our kids to higher education like that. We really don't. Because, well, why not? Because once they leave the higher education, the whole point of getting the higher education is so you can use it in the work world to get a job. And that's where we hit the stone wall. That's where in the wild you hit institutional racism. He's not going to do that. So Chuck Todd knows how he's baiting the question. He knows he's baiting the question. He knows who he's talking to. And he knows this black academic. Chuck is sitting up here laying in front of seat. From DJ Vlad to all these other people. Don't y'all understand? You know it's got to be a trick bag when these people tell you I'm against reparations, but I would approve of free education. Free college? Yeah. Okay, why don't you forgive all the student loans of all these black folk who done gone to college then? Are you in favor of forgiving all their student loans? Oh, hell no. You need to pay your student loans. But you're against forgiving the student loans that black folk have already racked up. But you claim that you would be in favor of free college education while you are currently fighting giving us free college education. I want you all to understand the 720 degrees of analysis you'll receive nowhere else. I'm bringing this 720 degrees for you. They're already fighting you on this. They don't want to give you that. Already. And then telling you, well, if it came down to reparations, we would rubber stamp it. Man, who the hell you fooling? Who you fooling? So when he brings up free education, y'all understand the DJ Vlads and the Chuck Todds and all the rest of those folk, if they actually thought that giving us complimentary college education would fix our position, don't you know that they would never give it? If a free college education was what would remedy our circumstance, they would never give us that. Never. So that's how you know that's a trick bag. These very same people telling you that they're against reparations are telling you, but I'd be for free college. That tells you they understand free college ain't gonna change a damn thing. Oh yeah, and free college would be way less than what you owe us. $50,000, you owe us way more than $50,000. Well, can we just start off there? Hell no, you can't start off there. Hell no.
Tax breaks, however you, so maybe it is free college, maybe it's discounted college, maybe it is tax breaks, however you want to describe it.
No. Not tax breaks however you want to describe it. Because understand, folks, here, I got to take you step by step through this so that you understand this. I, as an entrepreneur and business owner, I, as someone who have CPAs who work for me, let me be very, very clear about that. That doesn't work for the majority of black folk. That won't work. Yeah, it can work for the hand-picked Negro who has made it into the upper middle class. Well, yeah, that could be of some additional benefit to them, but the majority, 90% of my people ain't there. That may work for the Jason Blacks who were able to figure out a way around this crooked-ass system to get where he is, and I'm still not where I should be. But that's not going to work for 90% of my people. That might work for the Oprah Winfreys, but she already got it. No, we need something that works for the masses, not for the hand-picked few. Most of my people, if they didn't pay nothing in taxes, that's not going to change their life. You get a couple extra thousand here and a couple extra My people ain't a couple of extra $1,000 away from being free. My people aren't a couple of extra $1,000 away from being whole. My people aren't $10,000 away from being whole. My people aren't $20,000 away from being free. My people already don't make enough money to pay enough in taxes for it to change nothing. My people already don't have enough of an income tax return to change nothing. My people already don't have enough. Even if you made them tax-free, and he didn't say tax-free, you notice the trick bag language, he said tax break. However you want to define that. I don't want to define tax break. We can define tax-free. I'll take tax-free after we get to $150,000, $300,000 in income. Yeah, you can knock off them taxes then. Yeah, you know that top marginal tax rate? You know that 25 to 30% you keep whacking us with? Yeah, you can knock it off then, because 25 to 30% is not going to change the life of somebody making $30,000 a year. That would go a long damn way for somebody making $300,000 a year. That'd go a long damn way for them. So yeah, when we get to that point, yeah, you can go ahead and knock it off then. But folks, I want you to understand that's trick bag language. Anybody in here making $50,000 a year or less, you know damn well, even if you were paying no taxes at all, how the hell are you going to get ahead? New York City, you got a city income tax, a state income tax, federal income tax. If the Fed stepped off of that, because New York State ain't going to do it, is that extra few $1,000s going to help you get ahead in New York? You know what the real problem is in New York? You can't afford to live there. A closet costs you $1,500 a month. Los Angeles, is the extra few $1,000s a year going to set you free in LA? Hell, it ain't going to set you free in Riverside now. In the Bay, is a $4,000 extra a year going to set you free in the Bay? Where you can't even buy anything in San Francisco, and increasingly over in Oakland, you can't get nothing. Up in Seattle, is $4,000 or $5,000 extra a year going to set you free? Are you going to go make that investment in that real estate you've been waiting to make? Are you finally going to catch up to the Asians and all them folk up there in Seattle now? That extra few $1,000s, that's finally going to help you catch up? Hell yeah, Inland Empire is expensive now. Of course, Inland Empire has been tacking up for a while. For those of you who don't live in Los Angeles, go to Google and look it up. But yeah, Inland Empire has been running for a minute now. You just wake up one day when the damn landlords hit you with the rent's doubling. That's your ass. That's your ass. Dallas, Texas. Hell, Houston, Texas. We can go down the list. Atlanta? Man, what you talking about? Atlanta? Nashville, Tennessee? Are you $3,000 or $4,000 from being ahead? You really think $3,000 or $4,000 would have you straight in Nashville? Would have you straight in D.C.? Boy, Jason, if I can only get another $3,000, if I could just keep what they taking out in taxes in my check, if I could keep $4,000 or $5,000 more dollars, I'd be straight in D.C. I'm just $4,000 or $5,000 a year, $4,000 or $5,000 extra dollars a year, which is $500 extra a month. I know I'm kind of rounded up a little bit, but you get the idea. $400 extra a month. How many of y'all think your $400 extra a month would set you free in Atlanta, set you free in Jacksonville, set you free in Raleigh, set you free in D.C.? Well, I'm finally on par with white folks. The damages of slavery have finally been equalized now. When they start talking about cutting taxes, y'all, we don't make enough money for the tax burden to change our lives. We don't make enough for that. You got to deal with the upfront issue, not these other tertiary issues that come up later. So he talks to this academic. The academic, he already trick bagged him because you can't get the academic to speak against higher education institutions. He's not going to speak against universities. So you already got him saying, oh, yeah, that'd be good. Next thing you know, Chuck Todd's going to be coming up here all the damn time talking about what we need to do is discuss free education. Wow, we had this professor up on our program and he said free education could do it. Free college could do it. Instead of shooting that down and saying, yeah, the problem isn't, I love my institutions. Yes, I'm an academic, but the problem isn't we don't have free college education. The problem is on the front end, but you're not going to get him to say that.
Free college. Maybe it's discounted college. Maybe it is.
Beyond the
Services can sort of be what is.
Okay, one more point before I let this guy go on. When they talk to Jewish people, why is it nobody says, you know what, Germany needs to give y'all free education? He just finished talking about Jews in Nazi Germany. Why is it nobody says to Jewish people, you know what y'all really need is some free education. You don't need a check. When we talk to the Japanese, you know, y'all really don't need free money. You need a check. I mean, you need a free education. That's what y'all really need, free education. When they talk to everyone else, they never mention free education to anyone except us. All of a sudden, they start talking to us like they're psycho crazy. Ooh, free education for you. Well, wait a minute. Why is it all these other folk came through here? You didn't mention free education to them. You start breaking bread. I show up and all of a sudden it's United Nigger College Fund. So I just wanted to point that out real quick. They don't ever say this free education garbage to anybody else when they're talking about reparations.
Reparations, so maybe it is free college. Maybe it's discounted college. Maybe it is tax breaks, however you want to describe it. Is that an acceptable form in your opinion?
It is an acceptable form. And when we look at what we call reparatory compensation programs in government, they use a variety of strategies to help make people whole. But let's go to this point about indirect victims. When we look at the policies, when we look at government, when we look at history, we actually do compensate people who have suffered a harm indirectly and their heirs. Think about this. So in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right, Black Wall Street was bombed from the air. Homes were burned on the ground. No compensation, including for victims who are over 100 years old today. But when we bombed islands in the South Pacific, as in the U.S. government, we paid compensation to direct victims, indirect victims, and their heirs as a consequence of an American government bombing people on the ground. The point being here is when you look at reparatory compensation programs, what you find is there are a variety of direct and indirect victims who are compensated for nearly every group but black people.
I want to play a clip from Ronald Reagan.
And why is it that we have to be singled out? The very fact this is an argument tells you we're always singled out. When these discussions come up, it goes smooth as butter for everyone else, except when we show up. You're always singling us out and saying no bar is good enough, no standard is good enough. There's never enough evidence. It's never good enough. There's the problem.
After he signed a bill to...
There are a variety of direct and indirect victims who are compensated for nearly every group but black people.
I want to play a clip from Ronald Reagan after he signed a bill to repay Japanese Americans who were detained during World War II. Here's what he said in August of 1988.
Yet no payment can make up for those lost years. So what is most important in this bill has less to do with property than with honor. For here we admit a wrong. Here we reaffirm our commitment as a nation to equal justice under the law.
Coleman, is that a model for how America should deal with this? Could it be a model for how we dealt with Japanese Americans?
Like I said, the opportunity was missed in the lifetimes of slaves. I know of 0 examples of an ethnic group getting reparations 150 years after the crime in question. Now, when it comes to honor and
So you notice he just keeps repeating himself. So there you go. He just keeps repeating himself. I wanted to go through that, and it took a little bit longer than I wanted to there, but I wanted to go through that to show you here that on the national stage, no less than NBC, reparations is on the front burner. All the folks who told us what it couldn't do and wouldn't be, reparations is on the front burner. Now, Coleman the Coon was talking about Evanston, Illinois. And you know what, Coleman Coon? I'm so glad you did that. I'm so glad that you did that. So glad you brought up Evanston, Illinois, because I just so happen to have a story here. Just so happen to have one that should be right up your alley. However, I'm going to get to that here in just a moment. We're going to go ahead and take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to deal with that because old Coleman can listen in here. Before we do, I want to thank everyone, and I do mean everybody who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo. My man Grind Time in the Super Chat, no statute of limitations on reparations for every other group. No, it never is, and there won't. You ain't going to suddenly invent one for us. You're not going to suddenly create one for us. Cult-like personality, thank you very much for your support on tonight's program, brother. We appreciate that. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back here, old Coleman Hughes, you need to be listening in because I've got something a little bit special for you tonight since you brought up Evanston, Illinois. This is the Black Channel.
Are you ready to take the next step in your career or business? With Higher Life Recruiting and Consulting, you can get the help you need to reach your goals. Our experiences span multiple industries, giving us the ability to source top talent across various fields. We specialize in STEM and high-tech industries, but we are equally adept at recruiting and professional services. Our services include career consulting, resume writing, LinkedIn consulting, interviewing, lead generation, sourcing, and talent mapping. Follow us on Instagram at Get Higher With Us.
Having computer problems? Is your PC or Mac running slow? Need help building a gaming PC? Having problems with your Apple or Android device? Call or text Fix Too Fast. We can fix common and uncommon computer software issues remotely anywhere nationwide from the comfort of your home or business. Are you having hardware issues with your PC or Mac? Ship it to us and we will ship it back fixed. Call 1-877-412-9890 or text 513-440-1646 to speak to a technician. Please visit our website at www.fixtoofast.net.
A white supremacist assassin seeks revenge. Corrupt FBI agents with evil intentions. Dangerous black collaborators dedicated to treason. Occam Jeffers must defeat them all and somehow survive. One misstep and he's a dead man. Join Occam Jeffers as he looks the devil in his blue eyes and tells him, Black first. A sequel to the underground hit War of the Heart, Spirit of 1811 Publishing presents God Love Us, on sale at Amazon. Pre-order and save today. Visit spiritofo1811publishing.com and show your love.
More Threads, a brand owned by a descendant of Black American freedmen, was created to uniquely address Black American history and contributions that have been intentionally hidden and suppressed. Use their apparel and more to learn and share the Black American history of Black inventions, heroes, towns, Black business districts, and more. Sign up and support not only a Black-owned business, but a movement at www.morethread.co.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Natural Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is The Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all this evening. And as promised here, old Coleman Hughes brought up Evanston, Illinois. Now, this interview that he did on NBC's Meet the Press last week, that was last week. However, I'm so glad because I just so happen to have a story about reparations out of Evanston, Illinois from 3 days ago from the PBS NewsHour. So congratulations, Coleman, you're just in time. Since you wanted to speak on Evanston, why don't we go ahead and see how that's working out there? So, like I say, Coleman, you might have thought, you might have been a little bit worried that we were going to be able to keep up to speed on it. Oh, I assure you, we are right on time. This is PBS NewsHour. You can hear for yourselves here. This was from 3 days ago. That the Meet the Press I just played you all. This was from last week, but last Sunday. This is from 3 days ago.
In 2019, Evanston, Illinois passed the first reparations law in American history. It set out to address decades of segregation and legalized housing discrimination. Economics correspondent Paul Solman recently visited the Chicago suburb to follow up on the progress of the program. It's part of our ongoing series, Race Matters.
Evanston Hospital wouldn't accept black mothers, so my father had to drive me to Cook County Hospital to be born. But as a baby, I came back to the house. My father bought the house in 1930.
Now, did you hear what he just said there? Did you hear that? I want y'all to understand that. He said that the hospital they had there would not allow him. They didn't take black women there. They didn't take black women. Now, if you go Google Maps it, that's like 45 minutes from Evanston to Cook County. So his father, decades ago, had to drive over 30 miles. Now, you know how hectic it is to get to the hospital in time if a woman's water is broken. Minutes matter, and yet they had to go drive over 30 miles just so the son could be born while you trying to tell me I'm a black American. And I'm waiting to see when my Americanness has been honored. Y'all, they target children. And this little slimy, smarmy little bastard here is going to sit up here and tell you about it's timed out because he's a loser in life.
88-year-old Lou Weathers' house in Evanston, Illinois.
But as a baby, I came back to the house. My father bought the house in 1930.
88-year-old Lou Weathers' house in Evanston, Illinois, home to a long-standing black community which comprises some 16% of the city's 75,000 inhabitants, some of whom, like Donna Walker, are still bitter about the past.
I am true.
Really? Okay, let me stop that right there. Some like her still bitter about the past. Whoa! Now, when they talk to Jewish people about Nazi Germany, is it they're bitter about the past? Really? I don't even like this. You're not even a full minute in. What the hell? Is she supposed to be sitting up here dancing and singing zippity-doo-dah and everything's fine? No! You see, when we don't come out with the forgive bullcrap, when we don't come out with that, then it's, oh, you're bitter. When we don't let you sit up here and brutalize us and murder us and kill us, and let's just be very, very clear about that. Let me tell you something here. Coleman and Coon Hughes, there is no statute of limitations on murder. Coconut head bastard. There is no statute of limitations on murder. This little beady-eyed, buck-dancing son of a gun. There's no statute of limitations on murder. Now, I'm bringing you legal law. That's an actual law. There is no statute of limitations on murder. Let me educate you about that. And you can go get a wedgie to that one. There is no statute of limitations on murder. And we're just now doing a forensics review of the crime scene.
My father had to drive me to Cook County Hospital to be born. But as a baby, I came back to the house. My father bought the house in 1930.
88-year-old Lou Weathers' house in Evanston, Illinois, home to a long-standing black community which comprises some 16% of the city's 75,000 inhabitants, some of whom, like Donna Walker, are still bitter about the past.
I am truly waiting for 40 acres and a mule. A jackass will be fine for me, but just give me some acreage and I'll be okay.
Evanston isn't offering the acreage, but given the persistent and huge wealth and health gaps ever since slavery, it is trying to make amends with a first-of-its-kind reparations project that's spreading.
We had an official side event at the United Nations last week sharing the motto.
Oh, he looks so happy. This is the guy talking about the woman is bitter. He looks so... They let him keep his job? They let him keep his job. When you go talk to Jewish people, does he do this? Does he sit there like this? Is this satire? This is the guy PBS NewsHour sent to go cover this story and to report this. This is the guy. Really? Yeah, he looks like he's taking this seriously. Why in the world would I possibly be, bothered by this? Well, of course, this looks like a serious news reporter to me.
We had an official side event at the United Nations last week sharing the motto, the growth, that it was Evanston in 2019, and today there are over 100 localities that have taken a first step towards reparations for their community.
Former City Councilor Robin Rue Simmons spearheaded reparations here in 2019. $10 million to be spent over 10 years, funded by taxes on newly legalized cannabis sales and by real estate transfers. So far, 16 recipients, $25,000 each.
Black folk are 16% of the population in Evanston, he said. 16 people, $25,000 each. Here's the real issue. The real issue is that not just that that's not enough. That's not the real issue. The real issue is the main perpetrators of this are not paying what they're supposed to. That's the real issue. That's the real issue. However, like I say, I'm not going to down them for a start. I'm not going to necessarily down them for that. But this is not reparations. I'm glad that they're spearheading this and whatnot, but truth be told, it certainly is good for raising the profile of the subject of reparations. It certainly is good, but let me just say they would have a ways to go before we could name this reparations, in my opinion. I would need to see a lot more than this before they say reparations here. So, but definitely, when you take a look at the scope of it,
and by real estate transfers. So far, 16 recipients, $25,000 each.
I mean, there you go. Now, he said so far there have been 16 recipients, $25,000 each. You all do understand that comes up to $400,000, right? I'm just saying, you do understand that, right? 16 people times 25,000, that's $400,000. $400,000. So obviously they're not paying 16 people a year. That's the point I'm trying to make to you. They're obviously, if they got a budget of $10 million, if you got a budget of $10 million for 10 years, by the way, that's another thing I'm taking a look at right there. $10 million over the course of 10 years. That's supposed to be $1 million a year, isn't it? And yet, they're telling you 16 people, $25,000. Where's the other 600,000? Even if you take a look at that, where's the other 600,000? So the people who are supposed to get something are only getting 400,000. I know my mathematics. Where's the other 600,000? So, just thought I'd take a moment there. To point that out. Okay. No, I don't think they're paying $25,000 a month. No, I don't think that's it.
I just figured the country would not approve nothing like that.
Lou Weathers.
The country didn't, sir. The country did not approve that. That was something different.
Wasn't just surprised.
Yeah. I was shocked.
Shocked.
Yeah.
Weathers used his $25,000 to reduce his son's mortgage here in Evanston.
Well, anytime you reduce your mortgage payment is going to be lower. His bills are going to be lower. He can use the money for other things.
I had said it from the beginning that we were not going to see this money at all.
But hairdresser Donna Walker was wrong.
Some people did see it, and I'm very happy that they did. And I'm happy that the elders are able to, pay taxes on their home, fix it up.
Walker's next.
Getting ready. I'm just getting in position. The elders, let's be very, very clear. The elders were the ones who let this go on as long as it did. The elders were the ones sitting there buck dancing and shining. The elders were the ones sitting up there praying and forgiving. The elders were the ones who would tell you, y'all young folks need to quit making all that noise. You're going to make these white folks mad at us. So don't sit up here and tell me about the elders. See, this every time we start making progress, folks want to start sitting up here and giving credit where it doesn't belong. The elders had a century now to do what we did in just the last decade. Didn't move a muscle, but they sure are there with their pillowcases open to catch the proceeds. They should have been talking reparations a century ago. Never said a word. Jason, they was dropping bombs. They dropping bombs today, damn it. They got a full damn prison industrial complex. And we've been out in the streets throwing elbows and putting in work. The real riders have always fought against this. Don't tell me about the old niggas. They didn't do nothing. It's the young people doing that. Let me be very, very clear. Let me go back here and make sure we start. This ain't an elder. Robin Simmons is not an elder. This ain't one of the civil rights generation. It's the young folk who had to get the ball rolling on this. The old folk was sitting back at the juke joint, past the drink. Man, let me just go to the plant and get my little old pension and go home. Don't sit up here and try to lionize the old folk. I ain't having it.
Mortgage payment is going to be lower. His bills are going to be lower. He can use the money for other things.
I had said it from the beginning that we were not going to see this money at all.
But hairdresser Donna Walker was wrong.
Some people did see it, and I'm very happy that they did. And I'm happy that the elders are able to, pay taxes on their home, fix it up.
Walker's next-door neighbor, fellow hairdresser Gigi Giles, is on the waiting list for funds that will come in future years. So you figure you will get it eventually?
Eventually, if not, my grandchildren or my daughters will get it.
What will you do with the money?
I would
What will you do with the $25,000? And by the way, I couldn't help but notice a disproportionate number of hairdressers around here. But what will you do with the $25,000? Folks, the average cost of a used car today is around $25,000. Average cost of a new car today is $45,000. Think about that for a few moments. Think about that for a few moments. And by the way, y'all right. He's sitting up there asking her what she gonna do with the money. They never asked Jewish people that, so you're absolutely right. They never asked them that. But I'm also pointing out here the bigger picture here, but y'all are absolutely right. He's asking, what you gonna do with it? Okay.
That will come in future years.
So you figure you will get it eventually?
Eventually, if not, my grandchildren or my daughters will get it.
What will you do with the money?
I would fix up my home. I would do my kitchen and my 2 bathrooms.
Can you do that for 25 grand?
I'd make it work.
Well, I certainly hope so. I've seen enough Property Brothers and I've done enough renovations of my own. $25,000. If those rooms are very small, if those rooms are not very big, folks, have you ever tried to remodel a kitchen? Hell, have you ever tried to properly equip a kitchen? Somebody needs to take her to Lowe's or Home Depot and show her what the new prices for refrigerators and stoves are. One Samsung refrigerator can put you back $4,000 or $5,000. So, like I say, unless she's going to go to the secondhand store for everything, I'm just saying is we going to make it work, ma'am. Inflation is a mother out here.
Initially, reparations money only counted towards housing-related projects, mortgage payments, home improvements, or a down payment. In March, Evanston City Council added the option of direct cash payments because some had felt that a restricted grant was demeaning. Recipients should be able to do what they want with the $25,000.
Most of us here can't even afford to live here.
Okay, so do you all see what we're talking about here? At the end of the day, you gonna have to get the cash payments. If you sit up here with the, well, can we give it to you? We'll give it to you in the form of a big-ass housing voucher. Would that do you? We'll give it to you in the form of free education. And then they did that, and it's like, hey, that still ain't working. We need the money. We don't need you all trying to tell us what that'll do, and then we patch together other holes. We got, our situation is too fluid. Eventually, it comes down to the money. Chuck Todd, it ain't gonna do any other way. You can't sit up here and get around that. You're gonna have to get down to the money at some point. Everything else is a Band-Aid on bullet wounds. They tried that in Evanston, Illinois. Eventually, folk gonna show, hey, you gotta cut the check. Jason Black was years ahead of it. Cut the check. At the end of the day, you gonna have to cut the check. That's it. Bottom line.
Like Donna Walker, some had felt that a restricted grant had the option of direct cash payments because some had felt that a restricted grant was demeaning. Recipients should be able to do what they want with the $25,000.
Most of us here can't even afford to live here.
Like Donna Walker.
If you give me something, you can't tell me how to spend it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and it's like, you have people like, well, what are they going to spend it on? Man, I'm going to buy Newports and a Cadillac. Come on, really?
Newport cigarettes, that is. Lou Weathers, though.
What the hell? Y'all, what the hell is up with this dude? What the hell is up with him? Why didn't they just send Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson? Why didn't they just send them? Were they not available? Was Harris Faulkner busy? What the hell? Newport cigarettes, that is. Y'all, what is up with this fella? What you gonna spend the money on? Newport cigarettes. Just in case you didn't know what she means by Newport cigarette, like the R.J. Reynolds Company, if it was R.J. Reynolds, I don't know who does Newport, as if the R.J. Reynolds Company didn't spend enough damn money on advertising over the last damn century so that every man, woman, and child knows what the hell Newports are. He wants to make sure you understand that. It's Newport cigarette said it. What is the deal with this? Where the hell did they find him? Where the hell did they find this fella? What did they say? His Fox News application didn't go through? This is PBS NewsHour. This is your tax dollars at work. By the way, talking about money and folks being given money, this is your damn tax dollars at work. They brought him here. What the hell happened? Bill O'Reilly wasn't in Illinois at the time? So this is the best they could do?
Like Donna Walker.
If you give me something, you can't tell me how to spend it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and it's like, you have people like, well, what are they going to spend it on? Man, I'm going to buy Newports and a Cadillac. Come on, really?
Newport cigarettes, that is. Lou Weathers, though, prefers housing investment.
Anytime you have grants and stuff like that, two sides have to get something out of it. The city making people improve their property helps me because I own property.
Okay, but y'all look here. Oh, I'm trying to. Oh man, damn man, look here. This is the problem with the old niggas. Why is he yelling? Cause the young folk need me to get y'all's damn attention. This is the problem with the old niggas. Your house was built in 1930. You try to buy something built today. $25,000 ain't even gonna be a down payment unless you're gonna give up the PMI, premium mortgage insurance. It's always the old niggas talking about, yeah, because you got yours made. You done squandered all the damn wealth. Trying to tell us what we can get done for $25,000. That only helps if you already bought a house back in 1922. That's not gonna help you in 2023. What the hell kind of investment you gonna make? Come on now, Cook County, stand up. The realtors will laugh your ass out the office. You talk about, I brought $25,000. You go to a realtor today talking about you got $20,000. What the hell you trying to get with that? What kind of property you trying to get in 2023 with a $25,000 down payment? Where do you think you gonna live? And I'm not saying there aren't places you can't do that. Where you gonna be at? They coming to us in 2023 trying to tell us what he can do. He's already got his. He already got his. And telling us how $25,000 we can help spruce up the property and, help get that fixed up and increase the property value. Man, this is why it does no good. You got to come talk to some young folk down here in the soil who've dealt with this and can tell you what the damn numbers are. They talking to some old folk who already own theirs. What about the young people in Evanston who ain't got a damn thing? That's who you need to be talking to and tell them how much will $25,000 really help you. Then you find out what the numbers really are. Man, I'm sick of them sitting up here going to everybody except the people who actually got the damn answers. Somebody whose situation does not apply to the rest of us.
That's going to increase my value of my property. Like that. Two sides have to get something out of it. The city making people improve their property helps me because I own property. That's going to increase my value of my property.
Now, did you hear that? Oh, I'm going to stick with this right here. You hear that? That's these old niggas. The city making people improve their properties. When folks got a good income, they ain't got a problem maintaining their properties. Although I will tell you one thing, I've been to plenty of places around this country Where you got white folk, I'm talking about they got one property in the rural areas, one property across the damn streets, got bombed out, burned out cars, spare tires all over the damn place, and a big ass lawn with sitting on 30 acres right across the street from them with a big ass 4,000 square foot house. And it doesn't hurt their property values. It's always got some old nigga sitting up here. That's good. The city need to get on y'all there. The city need to make y'all fix up your properties. Make them fix up their properties. Come on now, I heard that. You see the interviewer now got his hat on. He's like, oh, go ahead, Rufus. Tell us everything you think.
It helps me because I don't. Two sides have to get something out of it. The city making people improve their property helps me because I own property. That's going to increase my value of my property.
Now, not everyone in Evanston is pro-reparations, of course.
I don't think it's a good idea. There are people who need help. The help should not be predicated on someone's race, creed, color, orientation.
A local businessman who called us later trying to take back the interview.
Why didn't he say a local white businessman? Because that's very relevant. Why didn't he say a local white businessman? Do we not need to know that? Why didn't he say a local white businessman? He wants to say something. And by the way, take a look at what they let him get away with here too, by the way.
Not everyone in Evanston is pro-reparations, of course.
I don't think it's a good idea. There are people who need help. The help should not be predicated on someone's race, creed, color, orientation.
A local businessman who called us later trying to take back the interview. A bit late, but as a courtesy, no name or face.
We had laws that were against the Chinese, and those were enforced from around 1883 to 1940.
That's white privilege to me. So the fella did the interview, then he came back later talking about he didn't want to have to, I didn't mean to submit that interview. You had plenty to damn well say when they were there. Why didn't you say a local white businessman so he can be the representative of white folk? You know the way you was trying to make Donna here the representative of Cools and Black and Milds? Why didn't you do that? What happened to a local white businessman? What happened to that?
To take back the interview. A bit late, but as a courtesy.
As a courtesy? Y'all, if you want to know why we need reparations, it's because this is the news media that our tax dollars help to subsidize. As a courtesy, we're going to uphold his white privilege as a courtesy.
No name or face.
We had laws that were against the Chinese, and those were enforced from around 1883 to 1943. So if we go by that standard, well, then we owe the Chinese recompense. We owe the Japanese even more recompense. And there comes a point where we're a flawed society. I think the thing we need to do is move forward.
Evanston Mayor Dan.
I think we need to move forward, but you trample black folk and left black folk behind. Yeah, that's right. We need to move forward. The whole point is you have moved forward. That's the problem. You did move forward. Our human rights were violated before the country was even founded. Our human rights were violated, enshrined in the Constitution. Our human rights were violated by every president. Our human rights were violated after antebellum slavery and the Great Betrayal. Our human rights have been violated down the line. We've been left behind at every step of the way, and he's saying the answer is more leaving you behind. You can go ahead and stand up. I prefer an honest white supremacist, although you're a cowardly one. You might be honest, but you're a cowardly one. You need to say it from your damn chest. So this is the reason right here, folks. Don't let anybody tell you that we need to build coalitions and allies. This will be the guy right there. As long as he doesn't have to show himself. Oh yeah, I'm in reparations, brother. Yeah, brother. You know I can understand that. As soon as he goes to boot, man, you niggas ain't gonna get.
That were against the Chinese, and those were enforced from around 1883 to 1943. So if we go by that standard, well.
Is this bastard really trying to talk about a 50-year period? Is he really trying to do that? Is he really talking about that? Oh, a 60-year period. Is he really trying to do that, y'all? Is he really trying to compare a 60-year period to what happened to us? And first of all, it wasn't even the same thing. It wasn't the same thing. Chinese people were not in chattel slavery. So stop trying to compare them to us. The Chinese did not have to go through what we went through. The Chinese were not defined as three-fifths of a person. Chinese people chose to come here. They knew the laws. They knew the lay of the land. They knew the system. They were not rounded up and forced to be here. Jewish people were forced into the Nazi concentration camps. Well, we were forced onto the American plantations, and then after antebellum slavery, we were forced to live under Jim Crow. Forced. We didn't sail across the country, across the world to somewhere else and say, well, I hope it gets better, but I'm rolling the dice. I heard some bad things could happen over here. Obviously, what was happening in America was preferable to what was happening in China. Now, let's just tell the truth about that. If they came all the way from China over here and the word got back, ooh boy, by 1883, 1943, by 1900, 1910, they already flew a kite back to China. Hey, they kind of do you kind of rough over there in America, over there in San Francisco, and they still coming very clearly. Whatever was happening in America was preferable to what was happening in China. Don't give me that garbage. If they were still coming over here, very clearly, it was preferable to what was happening over there.
And we owe the Chinese recompense. We owe the Japanese even more recompense. And there comes a point where we're a flawed society. I think the thing we need to do is move forward.
Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss wasn't surprised to hear of the reluctance to say this on camera.
I do think people feel like if I come out and say reparations is a dumb idea, we should not do that, I'm just not going to make a lot of friends. I'm not going to gain a lot of support.
But reparations champion Simmons says taking a stand means ignoring the blowback, no matter how unpleasant it's been to see.
Now, one more thing here. Listen to this.
Nice to hear of the reluctance to say this on camera.
I do think people feel like if I come out and say reparations is a dumb idea, we should not do that, I'm just not going to make a lot of friends. I'm not going to gain a lot of support.
Well, that's very interesting. So do you hear what the white mayor of Evanston, Indiana said? Do you hear what he said? Evanston, Illinois said. Do you hear what he just said there? Well, if I just come out and if I can understand why the guy didn't want to come on camera, because if I just come out and say that reparations is a dumb idea, I'm not going to get a lot of friends. Well, that's very interesting because according to Chuck Todd and NBC News and the so-called Pew Research Center, well, according to them, what you mean is that the Pew Research poll here doesn't actually represent the real world. It doesn't actually have any bearing on the real world. No, the mayor's not wrong in what he's saying. He's conceding that we're right. That he's conceding that we're winning. He's telling you, anybody who says they're against reparations, that it's a dumb idea, they ain't gonna make any headway. They're not gonna have any friends in Evanston, Illinois.
To say this on camera.
I do think people feel like if I come out and say reparations is a dumb idea, we should not do that, I'm just not gonna make a lot of friends. I'm not gonna gain a lot of support.
So you're not going to gain a lot of support. If you're against reparations, you're not going to gain a lot of support. So in other words, Chuck Todd needs to shut the hell up and sit the hell down. Because the mayor of Evanston, Illinois, I keep saying Indiana, Evanston, Illinois, the mayor of Evanston, Illinois is sitting up here telling you if you're against reparations, you ain't going to have a lot of support. That's the elected official. This is a white man, and he's telling you if you are against reparations, you're not going to have a bunch of support. You ain't going to have support. Chuck Todd trying to tell you you don't have any support, and here the elected official is in Evanston, Illinois, telling you if you say you are against reparations, you won't have any support. So to any brain-dead, nearsighted jackass still out there talking about, y'all niggas ready, they ain't gonna get y'all reparations. These folks ain't gonna give you that, and these folks don't support reparations, and here the man is elected to office in Evanston, Illinois, and telling you, oh, if you're against reparations, there's not gonna be a lot of support for you. No. It's not the people who are in favor of reparations who are not getting support. It's anybody who's against reparations who can't expect to get any support. Folks, all I can say is that this is the reason this damn news story here. This is the whole damn reason why you've got to have a black media. You got to have a new black media. Bowling Ball Martin ain't gonna say any of this. He's not gonna say any of this. You got to have us here to tell you this, that we told you when we are winning. Rachel Maddow is never gonna run this story and tell you and show you the metrics and the empirical evidence that we're winning. Fox News ain't gonna do it. NBC is not gonna do it. They're telling you you can't get it done, and the mayor of Evanston, Illinois is telling you the support is behind you, while Chuck Todd is over here telling you the exact opposite. Chuck Todd's telling you the exact opposite, but the mayor of Evanston, Illinois is telling you, yeah, Jason Black is correct. What he's been telling you all this time is accurate. Yeah, we know there's a lot of media apparatus that might try to fool you otherwise, but I'm the mayor of Evanston, Illinois, and I'm telling you the support is for reparations. That's where the support is. If you're against reparations, you're the one who doesn't get support. While they're trying to tell you that we don't know what we're talking about, what we ain't gonna get, I'm showing you the politician on the ground right there telling you who has the support. And it's not the anti-reparationists. He's telling you, yeah, the anti-reparationists are sitting up here ducking off a camera and scared to say something. Yeah, they don't want to stand up on that. Well, dude, if the support was behind them, wouldn't they be saying it from their chest? We can see the people saying it from their chest, while the reporter here, if you want to know why the hell he's catatonic, while he's doing every damn thing he can to convince you you don't have any support. If you wonder why he got to chip in and convince you don't have any support, it's because the man here, this part of the interview, he waited almost 5 minutes in to play the most important part. The mayor of Evanston, Illinois is like, hey, if you're against reparations, you're not going to get a bunch of support, man. He's saying that on camera. You're not going to get a bunch of support. So in other words, the people in favor of reparations, that's who got the wind at their backs. That's who's got the momentum. Fellas, ladies, gentlemen, I told you we were winning. And I know about a lot of you. Well, Jason, how do you know that right there? Joe Biden in the White House. Kamala Harris. Jason, I don't know, man. I mean, you say something. Bernie Sanders. Well, Jason, okay, I know they said cut the check, Jason. Okay, I mean, I got that right there, but I know your billboards thing, Jason. Well, yeah, I mean, I know the view. Okay, well, yeah, presidential debate. I get that right there, but Jason, you know you right. Man, how much more evidence you want? How much more evidence do you want? How much more do you need? I have held firm on this. I have told you and held firm that the momentum is behind us. All we got to do is stay the course and be relentless. Folks, I don't know any other way to give it to you. I don't know any other way to give it to you. 30 minutes outside of probably the most segregated city in America, and this is what's going down. I don't know any other way to give it to you. Stand firm.
Reluctance to say this on camera.
I do think people feel like if I come out and say reparations is a dumb idea, we should not do that, I'm just not going to make a lot of friends. I'm not going to gain a lot of support.
But reparations champion Simmons says taking a stand means ignoring the blowback, no matter how unpleasant it's been to see what she herself has received online.
It's the ghetto lottery or, you monkey, you slave, and go back to Africa, that type of stuff.
But the overall reaction, at least in this liberal city, according to the liberal mayor,
it's something that we're enormously proud of. I think it's an important step. one might argue, a partial step or an inadequate step, but still a really important step toward both on a factual level, reckoning with our past, but also creating the concrete equity that our community has been talking about for probably 4 or 5 generations, but has never really fully realized.
Is the pride pervasive? I asked our camera-shy businessman. So if roughly half the population are white, what proportion of those people do you think don't think this is a good idea? Think as you do.
You don't even bring it up because people are afraid to really express their thoughts. So I wouldn't be able to give you an honest answer.
At nearby North...
Okay, well, in that case, then, they don't matter. Folks, I mean, he's letting you know, you don't even bring it up. What about all the people who were sitting up here telling you, we can't win no race war. If them folks don't get that to us, we can't get nothing. He's sitting here telling you it's the white supremacists and the suspected white supremacists who are afraid to speak simply because we're standing firm. We're not the ones on the run. They are. They're the ones. He's saying, we don't even want to talk about it to be totally honest with you. We don't really want to say nothing. And that's the way it should be. Do you know what do you understand what you're saying here? Do you understand what this means?
People are afraid to really express their thoughts.
This means that we control the narrative. That's what I'm trying to tell you. What it means is that we control the narrative. Folks were sitting up here telling us, be quiet, y'all talking silly, ain't nobody ever gonna go for that. We can't even have a discussion about it, and the only thing I've been pushing for going on a decade now is simply to get the word reparations out there, simply so we can talk about it even amongst ourselves. And if we just continue talking about it amongst ourselves and make this something where it's not silly, that it's actually something serious that you stand on, everything else changes. And now what are they telling you? All of you have seen that famous picture. It's that little famous cartoon. The guy is standing in front of looks like a multitude of people with a whip. They're all bowing down except one person. He's standing up and won't bow. The guy is still shaking the whip. The one person won't bow down. Next, 5 or 6 other people stand up. Next thing you know, all the other people stand up and the guy with the whip is the one bowing down. I've been trying to teach you all and prepare you all this time to be the guy who stands up. And it will be lonely at first. It will be lonely. It will be taxing. It will be demeaning in many ways. It'll be difficult. You'll be alienated from family and friends. They'll be threatening you, impugning you, insulting you, telling you, you're going to bring problems to us. What you doing ain't going to matter. What you doing ain't going to change nothing. You're making an ass of yourself. You're making a fool of yourself. You need to stop all that. And all I've been trying to do is encourage you to stand firm. And eventually, as the old adage goes, Muhammad need not come to the mountain. All Muhammad need do is stand still, and the mountain will have no choice but to come to him. And I've been trying to teach you all and show you all how to get mountains to move. I've been trying to show you how to get mountains to move. That's the way that works. All we had to do was stand firm. And I know it. You're sitting there and stuff, and y'all folks have a television sitcom attention span. If it's not fixed in 30 minutes, they're like, oh, hell, it must have not worked. I've been telling you for over a decade, this will not be a sprint. This will be a marathon. But if we outlast them, all we got to do is keep showing up every day. They're like, damn, we ain't talking about that. Next issue on the agenda. They swing the damn gavel. Next time the agenda comes up, we back again. Y'all back again with that bulljob? Next issue, and then we don't show up to vote. Ooh, man, we got an ass whooping. Talking about reparations. Ignore that. We ignored their fathers and the grandfathers. They just wanted some interracial sexual access to be able to shop at Walmart. So just ignore them. They'll get out their system. I don't know, man. They're taking to the streets out there. Next agenda. Every time you have a quorum, every time you have a city council meeting, every time you talk to us about what the agenda will be, Barack Obama trying to tell folks the reparations ain't gonna go nowhere. Barack Obama telling you we can't do that. That means that he can't show his freaking flippant buck-tooth face anywhere in America to talk about reparations, because he would have to be the number one person having to bow down and admit that he was in the way and that he was stopping it and that he was a coward who didn't have the courage because he was against us. So what I'm saying is that as the political priorities of black people have shifted, the national conversation and the narrative has shifted. 5 years ago, folks were giggling about reparations. Ain't nobody giggling anymore. 5 years ago, they were giggling about reparations. They ain't giggling about it now. You can't find anybody who wants to laugh about it now. Yeah, that wiped the smile clean off their damn faces now, didn't it? At the top of my Twitter page, it's been firm. I went in my own pockets on my own. In the biggest market in America, on Lamar billboards, the same Lamar billboards that after Trayvon Martin we're talking about back the blue and back the badge. And Jason Black put it up there in big ass letters in New York City, 45 feet across. The issue is reparations. And yeah, they tried to act like they didn't see it. I told y'all, everybody and their mama saw that. They tried to act like they didn't see it, but you can't ignore the fact that somebody is taking out tens of thousands of dollars to start a narrative here. When you walking around New York and you seeing them billboards, you can't ignore that. All of a sudden you're like, hey, did you see that over there? I wasn't trying to convince WABC to talk about reparations. I wasn't trying to get New York Channel 2, not Channel 4, Channel 7, Channel 5. I wasn't trying to convince them to talk about reparations. I was just trying to convince you to talk about it. That's all I was aiming for. If I can get my people to discuss reparations, then eventually you're going to have enough of them stand up when the politicians do come around. The only thing they want to talk about is reparations. Next thing you know, you started a wildfire. And now, despite Chuck Todd's so-called polls, despite Coleman the Coon Hughes, despite everything they said, Coleman wanted to talk about Evanston, Illinois. He didn't want to tell you the whole story in Evanston, Illinois. I just thought you all would want to know what the whole story was since NBC wasn't going to tell you. Well, I took out a little time to go ahead and check into it. And yeah, this is the whole story in Evanston, Illinois. And it's just one of many now. Because what they really want to get to is to tell you, oh, this is far from isolated in Evanston, Illinois. Everybody's talking about this everywhere. And what you will see is that every victory fuels the next victory. And oh yeah, Coleman the Coon, every defeat for you will fuel the next defeat. You tried your best, you tried your damnedest, you've been identified as traitors. Watch out for these folks here who come from these backgrounds. He's Puerto Rican. Watch out for them. We've been watching them for a while. When they say things against black folk, Negroes, they dark-skinned, melanated, they got a history of going against black folk. When you talk about reparations, they got a history of being quiet. They have a history of being quiet. Those of us who stood up and spoke up is starting to bear fruit. It's starting to bear fruit. Just understand, I know it's been a long time coming, like Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I know it's been a long time coming. But I just wanted you to understand and to see things are changing. The narrative is changing. And if you waited, I've been telling you this for well over a decade, having reliable media operatives, individuals who ain't just talking to get clicks or views and ain't just talking to get clickbait, that we're actually out here in the field. And we actually, if we don't build the numbers and get the support, if we don't actually get real support, everything falls. If Chuck Todd was correct, if Chuck Todd were accurate, we wouldn't be here today. I've told you all since the beginning, the white corporate media is not going to say any of this. If you don't sit here with us, and we have to be reliable, we can't tell you that we're winning and then we keep taking L's. I'm telling you, hey, we winning. Don't believe me? Ask the mayor of Evanston, Illinois. He'll tell you, hey, y'all winning. We scared to speak up against you. Y'all are winning across California now. Y'all are winning coming through Alabama now. Coming through Alabama now. Oh, coming through Alabama. And it's just going to keep rolling. So, yeah, if you listen to the white corporate media, they ain't never going to get nowhere. Anybody paying you. Nobody cares. That's not an issue. Oh, one other thing. Do you remember the two Democratic shills who were on Luther Campbell's Twitter space? Y'all remember them out of Florida? We took a poll, and when we checked to see where reparations wasn't even the first or second or third or fourth thing. It's the fifth thing on the list. Nobody cares about reparations in Florida. Remember her? Yeah, let's see if you can find her in just a minute. Hey, baby, keep that energy. Don't let that energy go now, because you said we need to work on everything else. Keep that energy. You gonna need it. Keep that energy. Keep that energy, kid. You got to understand, the anti-reparationists are born cowards. We are the only warriors. We are the only heroic. We are the only people that folk are going to talk about in 100 years, because it takes and costs nothing to be a coward, and nobody envies you, and nobody admires a coward. The people who spoke against decency, nobody honors a coward. Nobody admires a coward. You can only go hide out with other cowards and hope that nobody ever puts the spotlight on you. I said this here to you all night because I want you to understand and to recognize what winning looks like. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I wanted to bring you to this point. I did this entirety of tonight's program, showing you everything that I did, bringing you everything that I did, going over it step by step as I did, so I could bring you to this point right here. The mayor of Evanston, Illinois, despite what Coleman the Coon says, despite what Coleman Cruz has to say, he don't want to use his real last name. Despite what Coleman Cruz wants to say, I'm showing you the white mayor of Evanston, Illinois, telling you, Coleman, shut the hell up. You don't know what the hell you talking about. Out here in the real world, the folks who got the support are the reparationists. How did that happen, people? It didn't happen overnight. It happened with a whole bunch of people mocking us, fighting us, obstructing us, defying us, and us continuing to march every day. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. I say that to you every week to remind you how to oppose and how to face a system of white supremacy. You can't turn over everything in a day, Jason. How do I do it? You keep moving step by step. I didn't say the steps were going to be easy. You keep moving step by step. You might be a mile away now, but one day they're going to look up. Your shoes might be ragged. Your pants might be weathered. Your shirt might be worn. You might have dust and dirt on you. You might have been walking out there in the rains. Might have grass around your feet. You might look like you've been through some things, but if you take it step by step, next thing you know, you're walking up the white supremacist driveway. And it might take you one step a day, but one step a day will get you there eventually. If you're determined to keep putting in that step, next thing you know, man, they hiding behind the damn couch. They're hiding behind the couch. We don't even want to bring it up. We thought you was gone. No, it took me a minute to get here, but I'm here. Can you come back tomorrow? No, it was too much walking. I'll just sit right here. But when you get up in the morning to leave, I'll be right outside the door. All right, I think I'm going on vacation. Okay, you can do that. You try to sneak around the back door. Yeah, I thought I heard you coming around back here. Yeah. You coming on out? That's the only way it can be.
Express their thoughts. So I wouldn't be able to give you an honest answer.
At nearby Northwestern University, Professor Al Tillery is studying the response to the Reparations Initiative.
We've so far gotten about, close to 4,000 respondents, people writing in.
So he doesn't have results yet. But although in nationwide polling, few whites are in favor,
I don't think we're going to be at the 15% for where white people are nationally. I think we're going to be much higher than that. Will we be over 50% with our white population? I don't know.
50%
in support. And so who approve? Yeah. I mean, if we found between 30 and 50% approve, I think that would be like finding the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I mean, that nowhere else will it have been so high.
And so...
Not true. You just haven't asked the question in other places. When you exert power, people respect that. When you look weak, people abuse that.
Where does the program go from here?
So over the course of time, more revenue is going to come in both through the cannabis and also through the real estate transfer tax that'll allow more grants to be allocated. There's a long waiting list of ancestors. Behind them is a long waiting list of descendants. And behind them are a lot of other people in this community who were mistreated or whose ancestors were mistreated by the city government through policies the city government deliberately enacted, and we have a lot of work to do.
Just to deal with the 600 or so applicants thus far, especially, says the mayor, in a city now so pricey, many blacks can't afford to stay, like Dwayne Logan at Gigi Giles' salon.
I'm from Evanston, but I don't currently live in Evanston now because the taxes were so high that I had to buy a house in Skokie.
Right, says Simmons, because blacks were never able to build generational wealth, which is why she was inspired to push for reparations.
I was looking at the race gaps in every area. I was looking at the loss of black community, residents leaving almost every day because of lack of affordability, not feeling a sense of place, going to other communities where they felt more hopeful and opportunity.
You see, nobody else has to sit up here and be migrated around and be refugees and running around because they've been deprived of their basic human rights. They've been deprived of the ability to earn a proper living. Nobody else has to do that. So we spend all our time being economic nomads. And every time you look around, we're starting from zero everywhere we go. When you factor that in, that's what the problem is.
Black experience in this city and in this nation has been in a state of emergency since we were kidnapped from West Africa and brought here. And so it is time to do something radically different than we've done in the past, and reparations is that answer.
About time, says Gigi Giles.
People want to see money. Money talks. And then they probably would be happy, but, it is what it is. It's a start.
And she's still living here and running the business her father started 60 years ago. For the PBS NewsHour Pulse.
It's very hard to pass down a business when over time
the business her father
it gets more expensive for each generation. You got new businesses coming in, the dollars are different. It's hard to keep a business going, especially a small business going generation after generation. And when you put an economic stranglehold on people, what you end up doing is making sure that the small businesses that support the people get choked out. And then you have nothing but large businesses. So your black hairdressers get choked out. And next thing you know, they build a Walmart with a Supercuts in it. What happened to your black businesses? Oh, we choked all them out. Here comes Walmart and there's a Supercuts. That's the issue. I want us to go down this step by step, inch by inch. I see most of you stuck with me here tonight, over 4,000 of you. So thank you very much for that as well. I want to go through this step by step and inch by inch because I know you've been given a lot of misinformation and disinformation. What form should reparations be in? Is it working? And I'm letting you all know, step by step, we're making progress. I do not oppose what is happening in Evanston, Illinois. Let me go back and show if they can get the original graphic up there and stuff. Actually, I got it somewhere else. But I'll show you the original graphic. I do not oppose what is happening in Evanston, Illinois. I do not. Maybe we have some clarification that would need to be required for some of the terms being used, but I am not at all against what is happening in Evanston, Illinois. Not at all. Because, yeah, it's a start, and once you get it going, once the program is in place, now the program becomes the norm, and now you can expand the program and tweak it over time. So I'm not against setting up the program. I would like to see the program in its proper form, but I'm not against setting up. It's a start, and what they said, hey, we've migrated from these little old ass block grants to just direct cash payments. That's the main step in the right direction. That's the main step in the right direction. And I'm all for it. Everywhere ain't gonna start exactly where we want it to be. But to be totally honest, as long as they're not starting on a rising tide lifts all boats minority program, oh, this is for disenfranchised people, including immigrants. No. As long as it's for the focus it's supposed to be about, I'm okay with it. We can start it and then we can start tweaking it as we go on. As telling me you got to get up off the money. It's got to be direct payments. Oh, we give you a grant. Okay, they started there and said, no, let's go ahead and you got to cut the check direct. Now you're there. Now you're there. Next step, you know this little old 25,000 is not going to get it. I wanted you all to see what progress looks like. I wanted you to see it, not somebody telling you it's progress or trying to convince you it's progress. I wanted to show you that everything we told you, that the white media would never inform you of this. They would never have a headline that says reparations making progress, reparations making headway. As a matter of fact, Chuck Todd got there to tell you exactly the opposite. You will never get them to say the words I said tonight. You would never get them to make the observation for the mayor of Evanston, Illinois that I made tonight. If I didn't sit here and explain that to you, you wouldn't understand what he was saying. He's sitting there telling you in no uncertain terms, if you are against reparations, you're the one who has no support. In other words, those of us who are for reparations, we're the ones with the support. And in the places where it seems like you don't have it, the strategy is simple. Say it from your chest. You be the most confident person in the room. You don't let anybody tell you it's a stupid idea. See, that's what they try to do, is shame you and mock you and get you embarrassed to say that this is the agenda. And then next thing you know, you ain't saying nothing. That's not your job. What you need to do is stand firm. You stand firm on that everywhere you are. This is our political agenda. Reparations across the board. Not reparations in just one place. Reparations across the board. That's the agenda. You gonna do it for cash payments? Hey, Coleman the Coon Cruise, you gonna do it for redlining, but it's not gonna stop there. You're gonna do it for everything that is owed. Reparations across the board. I've tried to serve in my capacity as the voice of Black America and as your anchor man to make sure that you had reliable information, that you didn't just have somebody telling you all this time that, hey, things are changing and I'll let you know when we see that, and the white media is not going to declare it. I'm sitting here declaring it for you now. You remember what the conversation was like 5 years ago. You've never heard any of your newscasters on these white networks sign on talking about 5 years ago. People get giggle when you say reparations, but today the conversation is far more serious. You don't hear them saying that. They're always going to refer to reparations as if it's some fringe issue. They are always going to talk about reparations as if it's a fringe issue. Even as they're cutting checks in Evanston, Illinois, they are still referring to it as if it's somehow some fringe issue, including in Evanston. They are never going to tell you that you've won. Never. You know why? Because they understand that telling you what you won will embolden you. And once you are emboldened, you are unstoppable. And that's the scariest thing in the world for them. We're going to go ahead and wrap up tonight's program here. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button, click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we're here. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com. You want to go there and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m. Gentrified Race War, all available on DVD streaming. Go to blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo. My man Andrew L. Hadn't seen you in a minute. Thank you very much for your support. Del Cena, I see you out there. Thank you very much for your support as well. We appreciate that. Big shout out here to Bernie Cole and everyone else who has contributed on Super Chat. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, The Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future and the future is relentless.